Yes, we're going to expand on that.
Mm.
We'll expand on that.
Mm.
It is true. That is very important that you say that actually. Okay,
Mm.
so we're live now. Like I said, I will allow you to introduce yourself fully, your portfolios, and all that to our audience. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I guess I'm not very interesting. My name is Chieke De Silva. I live and work in London. And I went to school in Nigeria, moved to England in 1997. I went to King's College. I grew up in Lagos. Lagos is the only city I know. And I moved to England in 97. I live and work here in my family. That's basically it, I think.
Okay. So, well, just before we came on live, we were having a conversation, and I was trying to explain to you why I feel it's important that we hold conversations like this.
Yeah.
You know, I think based on the few things you have said, I think we share similar philosophy.
Mm.
You know, I just want us to have these things on record. I want us to, because it's important that people with the right philosophy hold platform to push specific ideas. Someone who believes in Nigeria very, very strongly. I believe in her future, even though we have challenges. And I think every country around the world uh, uh, go through a process of what I call evolution, both political evolution, sociocultural revolution, and economic revolution. Nigeria is not an exception.
Mm.
I actually think we have evolved politically. In some ways, not negatively, even though some people might not acknowledge this, but it is almost impossible to have a coup d'etat in Nigeria right now in compared to the 1960s, 70s, 80s. This shows some level of maturity in our democracy. Right now, it is impossible to imagine a coup d'etat. Hardly should I say, because our military have been incapacitated. They have turned them into political. I don't know the right word to use, but I feel like so. That I feel to me that is some level of maturity. That is some level of democracy that we're experiencing. So I think that is a growth. That is a very very positive growth. So to the subject of today, what do you think about this? How do you feel about this interview? You were saying something before I interrupted you. Yes.
Well, I was saying, I mean, it's, as you say, I agree with you wholeheartedly that we need to talk, we need to speak, we need to share ideas. That's true. But like I said earlier, I think the discussion, the subject matter itself, I think is quite reductive, simplified, and not really. And because there's that word Igbo in that sentence, what that does is it draws in the audience to think this is a long life goal for the Igbo nation per se. I mean, I don't pretend to speak for the Igbo nation, but the truth is, and that's why I think it's a very reductive, because it's not a goal for Igbo people, it's a goal for the Igbo political elite.
Okay.
Yeah, because the beneficiaries of the zoning formula that we have in Nigeria is for the political elites to have an opportunity to govern. That's essentially what it is. So it's the turn-by-turn approach.
Okay.
So it's your turn to
rule and my turn to rule.
To rule.
So,
yeah.
What will you have instead of that?
No, we just have. What we need to do is, first of all, I mean, like I said. So I think back to the question. So I think it's not the question is not, is it an Igbo presidency? First of all, we have to try and define what's Igbo.
Okay.
Because Igbo is the only ethnic group. Well, Yoruba have it to a certain extent, but Yoruba people and Igbo people have it more. We're the only ethnic group in Nigeria where we have some Igbo people not identifying as Igbo. So you don't hear Northwest Hausa, Northeast Hausa. You just hear Hausa.
Okay.
But Igbo people, there's Rivers Igbo, there's Delta Igbo, there used to be Bendel Igbo, then there used to be all sorts of different kinds of Igbos. But that's a legacy of the Civil War. where identity was a death sentence. So a lot of Igbo people retracted from identifying as Igbo. But what that has done is post-Civil War is Igbo people is the only major ethnic group with a kind of fragmented identity. So first of all, we have to define who's an Igbo person.
Okay.
You know? I mean,
okay.
we as Igbo people, we know who Igbo people are, but for the broader audience, who are the Igbo people? You know?
Okay.
So that's one thing. Then another thing is Igbo people wanting presidency. You know, Igbo people want good presidents. It doesn't matter where the person is from.
Okay.
But I don't think it's exclusive to Igbo people. I think it's just Nigerians want good presidents. And like I said in our last discussion, Igbo people, if we're focusing on Igbo, so I don't want to make it an Igbo thing, but this topic is Igbo, so we have to just speak to that.
Yeah.
Igbo people would prefer a Nigeria that works, because like I said before, what it does is it creates opportunity for them to compete. And Igbo people compete at the highest level. They always have. They always have. And it's not me picking them out. It's just the data shows it. But it doesn't also mean that Igbo people are more intelligent than other ethnic groups. No. Because there's a wise man that said intelligence is evenly spread around the world. But opportunities are not.
Okay.
So what that means is the same way you can find a rocket scientist in Kaduna is the same way you can find it in Lagos. The only reason why you see it more in Lagos is the opportunities converge more in Lagos than in Kano. But it doesn't mean they're less intelligent, because intelligence is evenly spread. Its opportunities are not, you know. So the point I'm making is Igbo people want a Nigeria that works so that they can thrive.
Okay.
And even with Nigeria that is not working now, they compete at the highest level. And that's why on my other call I said the crybaby thing doesn't work for someone like me. You cannot be and this is if you believe the Nigerian statistics, if you believe the MBS, but even anecdotally, you will see that Igbo people, they lead in banking, they lead in finance, they lead in commerce, they lead in R&D, they lead in literature, they lead in sports. And like I said on the other discussion we had, they invented Nollywood and the music industry. So they didn't invent music or film.
The industry.
The industry.
Yes.
Because you couldn't watch Nollywood. I mean, I heard so many cities I've never heard before. I mean, every Nigerian knew Idumota, Opiweka, Bridgehead, Onitsha. Remember in the old days when they show films, you talk about all these cities. The reason why they talk about all those cities is because those are the centers where the distribution happens. You can't distribute a film without those people. And you can't produce a film without them. So the industry, which is essentially the parts of an activity.
Yes.
Industry just means an allied activity to one activity. That's basically what it is. That drives it to scale. So the scaling up of Nigerian music and Nigerian movies is these same people. If you go to R&D, if you go to academia, they are there, they're front and center. So they're not the crybaby thing really has to stop. Okay. The only issue Igbo people have is a fundamental structural constitutional thing where the northern elites divided Nigeria into constituencies and gave themselves more constituencies.
That is fair. I agree with you on that.
Yeah. So if you give yourself more constituencies and we're using constituencies to share revenue, you would always get more. That's basic. It's just basic maths. Then if we use constituencies to do primaries for election, and the law says every party in Nigeria must be present in 36 in the 36 states and the FCT. What that means is, even if you have a party, PDP for example, the preponderance of power will still be with the North, because you're going to share the party elect. That's the delegates would reflect the local governments.
The constitution. Yes, that is true. Okay.
Yeah, it will reflect it. So what that means is, and you remember the last time Chuduka was saying we don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers. What he's essentially saying is, even though the Southeast and the South have been supporting PDP all these years, if we have a what they call it now, primaries now, you would lose.
Okay, I want to ask you something actually. It's interesting what you have said so far because it destroyed the myth of Igbo presidency. But I would like to hear your opinion about what you think about Nnamdi Kanu. Very sensitive topic. I want to hear what you think about
For
that.
me, it's not sensitive at all for me.
Okay.
Nnamdi Kanu is exercising his fundamental human rights.
Okay.
And that right is also enshrined in our own law. Even the African Charter expresses those rights, which has been domesticated in Nigeria. That's the right of, so it's international law, is regional, and is domesticated. It's the right of indigenous people for self-determination. Is a right.
The reason why I asked you about that is because it's almost his philosophy contradict the initial position you took on one thing in Nigeria that is working. Okay, I will agree with you that if Nigeria was functioning 100% good and leveled for everyone to thrive, the likes of Nnamdi Kanu will be very, very difficult to succeed in, brainwashing the people that they are being marginalized. But you say something quite interesting. You said about something of victim mentality. Am I wrong? Did I hear you properly?
Yes, I'm saying, so the whole, you see, most of the post-Civil War, remember, Nigeria has a history. That history always has to be, every discussion in Nigeria has to be in context.
Okay.
So remember that, what they call it, the tripod that created Nigeria, that tripod, the Hausa, Fulani, Igbo, and Yoruba, these are the pillars, the Nigerian, that's when we're negotiating for independence, these are the three pillars. But as Chuduka said, the minorities are the glue. So you can have a tripod, but the glue is just as important as the tripod. They're the glue that binds the whole country together. But the point I was making, going back to your question, is that yes, in Nigeria that works for everybody, but you have a point that the reason why there's an Nnamdi Kanu is for the constitutional structural problems we have in Nigeria. And once you have a structural problem in a federation like Nigeria, you would always have people like Nnamdi Kanu.
Okay.
Because remember, even in the UK, structural inequities, inequalities creates, and the history, remember, you can't remove history from it. Like I just told you, now we have a civil war in the UK, and that's why till today the Scottish people are trying to get independence. So it's not unique to Nigeria, but it's not because Nigeria is not working. If you go to Spain, the Basques,
the Catalonia, yes,
the Catalonians, the Basque people, all those people that are running, the richest part of Spain is that area. That's Barcelona, Madrid. Yeah, that's the richest part of Spain. So self-determination is not always about the fact that you want because things are not working. Things could be working. You want to self, it's a very spiritual, it's a very philosophical thing where people fight for self-determination. It doesn't always mean the situation is tough. But I think Nnamdi Kanu's zone is, from the way I understand him, his is not about I want to get anything. He's not. He doesn't care about oil wells and no. His is more of a philosophical position. That he feels the Igbo nation should run itself by itself. It's a philosophical thing. The only thing is that if I was a Nigerian state, I would do what the Europeans do. What you do is you create an atmosphere that will make his proposition unlikely to pass. So, for example, now, instead of killing them and shooting them and doing all these things, if you look at the reasons why he wants separation, the state, normally what the state will do, a responsible state, is you do what they did in the UK or what they did in Spain. What they do is the state will now give additional autonomy. That's what they did in Scotland. They gave them additional autonomy. They gave them their own parliament. What that did was the Scottish nationalists were now divided into two. Yeah, because remember, the Scottish person that wanted to leave, I want to leave. By the time you now give him almost everything he needs, he now says, I've gotten everything I need now. We're more or less independent. So what you do is you divide the votes, and that's why
Okay.
the Scottish referendum they lost.
Why do you think Nnamdi Kanu became very popular?
So Nnamdi became
Among,
popular.
beside the fact that he's been seen as a martyr because the Nigerian government gave him that authority.
Yeah.
But why do you think he became popular in the mind of the Igbo people? What does he represent?
Yeah. So he represents fearlessness. Remember, again, is in context. These are people that, I mean, if you know the Igbo community, every discussion is before the war and after the war.
Okay.
Every discussion within any Igbo family community, everything is before the war. I remember my grandfather, everything he says before the war, after the war. My father, everything is before and after the war. Yeah. And for some people, they believe that because Nigeria is not working as the way it should work, they believe that this other thing, this Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is proposing might work. Do you know what? It's not even so much Nnamdi Kanu. Anybody that brings anything new in an environment, nothing works. People will follow.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, you can use the same argument with Boko Haram, even though I'm not suggesting for any minute that you can compare Boko Haram with Nnamdi Kanu's agitation. They are totally two different things. But the question is, why was Boko Haram's proposition very interesting for the people in the core north? Why? It's because the system doesn't work. People are poor. They've seen their so-called Muslim leaders break all the rules that they ask them not to break. Corruption, iniquity, to use a biblical term. So they're doing all those things that, meanwhile, as they're saying it, they build a mosque for you. So they've seen that these people are deceptive, these people who don't benefit for them. So what that does is it makes Boko Haram's propositions more interesting, and you want to explore it. So it's not, so it's a human phenomenon. It's just a human thing.
Have you developed any opinion about Peter Obi, for example? What do you think about his emergence?
I'm fully with Peter Obi.
Okay, so you're obedient
on that call. I don't know if you remember on that call. One of the things I said was I've donated 550,000 to his campaign.
Yes.
Oh, you remember when I said it, right?
Yes, I heard you.
Yeah, the last 50,000 was just last week when they started a new round of donations.
Okay.
But you see, people make the mistake of saying Peter Obi is an Igbo phenomenon. People make that big mistake.
Okay.
And I said it on the call as well. The North needs Obi making Nigeria better than the East. And I invited people to look at the numbers. If you look at the last poverty multi-dimensional index, but even if you look historically, the poorest part of Nigeria has always been the North. The core North has always been the poorest part of Nigeria.
Okay. Yeah, that's true.
And the least, remember, the whole country is poor. There's no part that is rich. But the least poor has always been in the South. And Igbo states have always been front and center. So if you look at this last data, look at first 10, first 11, the Igbo states are there. So you, and that's if you believe MBS. But even anecdotally, most Nigerians know that the level of poverty is, they know how it shifts and turns. So what that means is what B2B is selling should really be goggled up in the North. They need it more. So P2B is not an Igbo can. He's an Igbo man, yes. And the problem with this kind of discussion is this is one of the reasons why people like Mazi Nnamdi Kanu gets really upset. When Atiku is running, he's not a Fulani candidate. When Ashwaju is running, he's not a Yoruba candidate. But when an Igbo person is running, there's an Igbo candidate. When they had the military interregnum in the 60s, they called it an Igbo coup. Meanwhile, only 4 people there were Igbos. Other people there were from Benue, the people were from Johnson. So they're always the what they call it, the whipping boy.
Okay.
Because
You know,
Peter Obi has,
the reason why I asked you this is because we have more than 200 plus tribes and ethnic group in Nigeria. And we are all suffering from the same injustice, lack of electricity, lack of road, lack of water, all of us. No ethnic group can come out and say, hey, we are enjoying Nigeria, or even the Hausas, even the Fulanis themselves. I will not go deeply into what the Fulani people are experiencing in northern Nigeria. They are victim of all these crises you're going, but many people do not know. Many people who are not familiar with this region don't know. But I live there and I know all these things. So, but the people who seem to be very, very vocal about the injustice going on in Nigeria, specifically a group from the southeast, vocal, but particularly, and why Nnamdi Kanu became very prominent. And so, but the clamor that Nnamdi Kanu pushed subsided. The thing just with the emergence of Peter Obi. So people were raising questions. So permit me to say this question is very legitimate. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. You want to say something about that?
No, because I always hear that thing. I always hear it. They say, oh,
Okay.
They say since Peter Obi came, it's quieted down. No. You see, one of the problems we have as a country is first of all, we don't follow data and we don't follow trends. Since Nnamdi Kanu was kidnapped and incarcerated, you don't hear much from them anymore. What you now hear is shootings. So the idea that Peter Obi just came all of a sudden, no. In fact, the idea of Biafra is anti-Nigeria. So Biafran people don't care about Peter Obi. That's the point.
Okay.
Yeah, because it will be a contradiction. They don't believe in the state. They want their own state. So why would they be supporting election? Even now, they're saying nobody should vote. I'm sure you've heard it.
Yes, I've heard it.
Yeah. So it's not that they all of a sudden they all became Republicans. No. And there's no evidence for that. People just say these things. Oh, since they came, there hasn't been any agitated. People are no. If you map it from the time he was arrested, the whole thing has calmed down. It's now become underground.
Okay, that is true. I agree with you on that.
And people forget that a lot of Peter Obi's proposition is not an Igbo proposition. Peter Obi is saying, look at me, I will do things differently. And if Nigeria was a normal country, the option there is clear to the blind and audible to the deaf. If it was any other, I think there was a man in Ghana that was saying it is a disease in Nigeria where you have an option, these three people. Any objective assessment will pick Peter Obi. Any objective assessment.
Okay. Now you push me to ask you about all the three candidates that are presenting themselves, Jagaban, Atiku, and Peter Obi. Can you just speak about each of them? Like, what do you think about? Let's start with Jagaban, for example.
I mean, do you know what? This is my own idea, or this is my own personal idea. You see, if you wanted to have a leader, remember, anything you do rises and falls with leadership. You are a leader in what you do. I'm a leader in what I do. You are a leader in your home. I'm a leader in my home. Anything you do as a human being, you will lead in one way or the other. The point is, being a leader is not just like example. My dad always told me, being a father doesn't just mean you fathered someone.
That is true.
Even animals can have offspring. So that's not the issue. So in picking contemporary African leaders, we must agree as African people that we'll have a moral foundation for picking our people. So this goes beyond Nigeria now. We must have a moral consensus as to our threshold for morals and morality.
Okay.
Because there's no way you can have a father that is never home, a father that goes out to go and steal at night, who has wives everywhere, from this woman to that woman, and that man will still be a present father. It will be a contradiction. It's impossible.
What's the correlation?
So the point I'm making is this. So Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not fit for the presidency of Nigeria. That's using the moral. Remember, really, politics about morality as well. Morality comes first.
Okay, because when you were speaking, you know the person that came to my mind,
Who?
Atiku.
Oh no! Because I
Because
said wives. Because I said
he
wives.
traveled. No, aside the wife stuff, Atiku traveled to Dubai. He lives there. He basically has a villa there. And
Yes.
only comes back to Nigeria after 4 years.
Yes.
You know, and he was asked a question recently about if you're sick, would you fly out to outside the country to get treated? He said, yes, of course, if the facilities are not provided in Nigeria. This is a presidential candidate.
Yes.
He wasn't even ashamed to say, oh, I will make sure that all those things are provided in Nigeria. He blatantly said he's going to leave the country and then asked the journalist, oh, do you want me to die? You know, yeah. So, yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
so if you let's look at the three characters now. So in Ashwaju's case, he was governor of Lagos. You see, the reason why Obi for me is very interesting, and I'll go back to Ashwaju, is, you remember, Obi didn't just start running last year for presidency. I don't know, and that's one of the difficulties I have with Nigerian elite and Nigerian press, especially Nigerian press. Nigerian press, first of all, they're not really free, but I think they lack resources and expertise and training, and there's so many things. Remember, if you come to something like CNN or BBC and they're interviewing you, they do checks. It's not like you come and just spew some things and leave. They push back, but they put the questions in context. But we never do that. So you look at Ashwaju now as the governor of Lagos. Yeah, governance is not just building roads. I mean, I was born and I grew up in Lagos. There's nothing about good governance that Ashwaju brought to bear in Lagos. There's nothing.
Okay.
I mean, there's nothing. But the next question now is, what is good governance? Is good governance stealing the funds of the state? Is good governance revolving door syndrome? Is good governance conflict of interest? I mean, so is good governance not developing the human capacity? So this gentleman, in my opinion, does not have this. He doesn't have it.
Okay.
Then the next one is Atiku. Everyone that has worked with Atiku, in fact, apart from that, even Ashwaju himself, another way of judging people's character is people that know him. People that have worked with Ashwaju told us the kind of person he is. They told us. In fact, the one that was running the company that collects money, the case is in court.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've told us. So that's on one side. You now go to Atiku. Atiku, till today, cannot justify his source of wealth. Atiku has never worked outside the government of Nigeria before. So on the face of it, where did he get his wealth from? People say he owns a chicken company, but where does his initial wealth come from? Corrupt enrichment. I mean, these are facts, anecdotal, but they're facts. He's never had a job in his life. The only job he had was custom officer. How much is a custom officer's job? Then you go to Ashwaju as well. Ashwaju has only had 2 jobs in his life that we know. One is when he was with Deloitte said he didn't work there, right? They said he didn't work there, but he worked for there's another company that he worked for where he was earning $28,000, right?
I think he referred that to Deloitte. I think that's the memory I have.
Sorry?
I think he referred that to Deloitte.
Oh,
if I
Deloitte,
remember,
yes.
if I remember.
Then he said he worked somewhere else, but they sent an email saying he didn't work there. Remember, there was one that they wrote and said he didn't work there. I can't remember the one.
Yeah, that's the contradiction with the Deloitte. When he said it, but they said no, that he didn't work with them. That's
no.
I hope I'm not wrong.
Oh no, as in there was one that he worked at, which is confirmed. But there was one, I just can't remember the names now. There's one that they said no, he didn't work for us. But the one that he worked at was $28,000 was the salary, was a junior accountant. So for someone who has $28,000, you can't be forfeiting $480,000 or what. I mean, for anybody who's worked in the corporate world or tries to apply a bit of common sense, will see that tax is a function of earning. So you can't be earning.
So you are questioning the integrity of these two men, Atiku.
Because integrity is everything. I've just said to you, every society must have a moral foundation. It must, because it's not possible for you to be a governor, you loot the state, you bring other people, they loot the state. Why would anybody want to give you a bigger responsibility? I mean, in any human, even in our local traditional setting, anyone that steals in Igbo land, once you steal and they find out to stealing, there are many organizations that can't join anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, because the human society tries to punish bad and reward good. That's why human beings survive. There's a reward and there's the punishment. So we can't have a man who has all this baggage, corruption, the inability to govern in a responsible way. Allegations of stealing and looting. Then you now have another.
Do you think Peter Obi will win this?
Well, so yes. So on the face of it, like I said, in any society in this world, if you show these three men, it's obvious who anybody will pick, and that's why if you notice, every single poll they've taken, he's always been in the lead, big margin. But some people say they don't believe in polls. But what I'm saying is the choice is obvious, but the decision is individual.
Your opinion, your assessment is what I'm interested in.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So in my assessment, so if you look at someone like Atiku does not have the moral standing to be a good president. He's never had a job in his life and he cannot account for his wealth. Now, when you look at Obi's trajectory is clear, open as a book. Obi became a millionaire, I think, from 25. But Obi has come in a long, people of his, where he came from. A lot of people, that's when they become millionaires at that age, as businessmen. If you go to his town, there are many Obis. But most importantly, Obi's life, if you look at Obi's life that's in the public domain, he stands in a better position for any objective. But Obi has never stolen government money before. Obi's wealth is known and verifiable, transparent. People say his name came out in Panama Papers. I mean, I work in investment banking. When the Panama Papers thing came, we destroyed it because we're looking for where we read through it because we wanted to find if we had any exposure there. Being in Panama Papers doesn't point to guilt or a crime.
What you have said so far pointed to his quality and why he's exceptional among the two other.
Yes.
But do you think he will win? What I'm asking you is,
do I think he will win?
What is the political assessment?
Okay, very good. I think he will win, yes.
Okay, so you think he will get vote from the Southeast, South, yes. North Central, for example, Southwest also. Yes. How about the North, for example? What do you think? Do you think? I will tell you that, go ahead.
Yeah, but you see the thing, so again, we're falling into that Nigerian argument. Nigeria is a country of contradictions. Nigeria is a country of contradictions. So we've agreed based on what I said, that he's the best. He has a moral standing, and he has a philosophy to his governance style. He has a philosophy. And I remember I told you that he didn't just start running for election last year.
And what is that philosophy, if you don't mind?
Yes. So Obi believes that governance is not just building bridges. Obi's philosophy is to prove to the Nigerian people that Nigerian myth, that the Nigerian political system is a myth, and we all revolve around that myth. A bit like what you just said now. You said, will you think you will win in the North? As if the North is a different entity from a different planet. But remember, I said to you, the people that need Obi the most, if Obi would deliver on his promises, are the North, because they're the poorest.
It might look simple to you and to me, but in the North, do they know these things? You remember, there's religious biases.
Yes. Again, I don't really buy those things because what we're assuming that because you are poor, then you're stupid. No.
No,
You
I'm
see
not
those?
saying they're stupid. I'm talking
No,
about the
not you, not you,
bias.
not you, not you. I'm saying generally, people assume. You see, but the Northerners have the core Northerners, because we have to differentiate as well. The core Northerners have proved to us that they know who their enemies are. And why do I say that? Boko Haram.
Okay.
I mean, Boko Haram is agitation. Boko Haram, and that's another problem with Nigeria, with Nigeria that is so frustrating. Boko Haram is actually a civil war. If you Google what civil war means, if you Google civil war, definition of civil war,
Yeah.
Boko Haram is, in Nigeria, they always say a country cannot fight civil war twice and so on. And I always laugh because we've had a civil war effectively since 2012. That's when a component part of a country wages war on the country. Is a civil war.
Yes.
That's what's it. So Boko Haram has been fighting effectively civil war on the Nigerian state since 2012. But who are they fighting against? Remember the agitation of Yusuf, that man, the Boko Haram person. Remember the agitation? It was against the elite. He was fighting the corrupt elite. So the idea that the people in the north or Nigerians in general don't understand who the enemies are is wrong. Again, Nigerians told us again during NSAS. Remember they say, oh, Nigerians are so. They told us again, who were they attacking? Big houses, people in jeeps. But we forget because nobody actually documents and expresses these things the way foreigners do. We find it difficult to analyze and and express information. We find it very difficult for some reason. I'm not sure. But
What do you... Go ahead. Go ahead. Ask my question. Go ahead.
Yeah, but the point I was making was that the September the NSAS protest was part of it. We know who the enemies are.
Okay.
And Nigeria is not unique to any country. Remember, there's a French philosopher that said, when peaceful change is made impossible, violent change is inevitable.
Who says that? Is that Montesquieu?
I think so, yes.
What do you think about Buhari's administration performance so far?
Yeah.
What do you think about his administration?
I was a fan of Buhari when he came. I didn't think he would do anything. Because again, it goes back to that man Nigerian contradiction. When Buhari came the first time, he failed. Yeah. When he was in his 40s, he failed. I mean, I remember when Buhari came, I was a young child then. And I remember when you're driving down from Sule to Yaba to go to school, I remember I used to see people kneeling down, soldiers lashing people, yes, every morning. And I couldn't understand why that's happening. And that's when they're doing that Q-U-E-E-Q, war against indiscipline. That was Buhari's time. They used to beat people up. If you come late to work, they'll beat you up. If you cross the road the wrong way, they'll beat you on the street. And even as a young person, I've always thought, this is not a very intelligent thing to do. And again, Buhari was obsessed with so if we take the two policies, beating people wasn't the issue. The question is, identify the reason why they cross the road and why they rush for buses. You cross the road because you don't have pedestrian crossing, so you build pedestrian. Why do they rush for bus? Everywhere in the world, people rush for buses. Even here, rush hour. The way to mitigate or stop it is to provide more buses, not to beat people up.
That is true. That is true.
Then he was obsessed with the foreign exchange. He started that foreign exchange control even when he came. That's why someone provided newspapers of when he became president. The first 2 weeks, you could see war on foreign exchange. He's obsessed with it. But again, because he's not able to identify the problems, he's not able to solve it. For you cannot control a commodity or a product you don't produce. It's common economics. So you can't control the price of the dollar because the dollar is not yours to control.
Yeah.
The only way you can try and moderate the effect of dollar in our foreign exchange is to energize the economy to earn more dollar, to be able to cushion the effect. So, but if you're not able to identify a problem, you can't solve. So when Buhari was coming, I remember telling my friends, first of all, he's old. Second of all, he's too backward for Nigeria. And the last time he came, he's not a sophisticated leader. He's not a philosopher king. That's why I said to you, a leader must have a philosophy. A leader, if you look at all the great leaders, they all have there's a philosophical opinion to what they do. I mean, look at France, where you are. There's a philosophy, the nature of the state of the nation state. What do we want to achieve? How do we want to achieve it? You identify the problems. But in the Nigerian and the broader African context, power is about who will loot, when to loot, and for how long. I think it was Patotomi that said that. It was a Patotomi that said that. He said in Nigeria, the discussion is who will loot from where, what part of the country. When
we have 5 more minutes to go, but
okay.
I want to hear your opinion about what you see in the eventuality that if Peter Obi wins this election. Yes. How do you see Nigeria? What do you think his presidency symbolizes for Nigeria?
If Peter Obi wins, the Nigerian Renaissance will be born.
Wow, that's a very strong statement.
Yes. Because the necessary change to energize the Nigerian state was started by Peter Obi. So remember, leadership is turn by turn. He's not going to solve everything in 8 years, but he will create the impetus for that to happen. Remember what I said? Everything rises and falls with leadership. So if anybody is doing, if my team is not operating properly now, don't worry about putting the team. It's me. And if you notice, Peter Obi has changed the Nigerian election forever, whether he wins or loses. This is the first election in Nigeria where facts became a thing. Just think about it. This is the first election where facts became a thing. You know, we used to have this caveman type election before. People dance, people eat, people this. But now people feel like, that's why even on TV, fast check me, because Obi did that thing that most Nigerian elites, especially the destructive elite, if you talk, you say, this one is too much turanchi, just they talk. But the truth is, governance is scientific. Governance is a science. So Obi will start the Nigerian Renaissance, and it will influence the way African leaders are gotten as well. It will be, if Obi wins, it's going to be the beginning of the African Renaissance. Believe me.
In what ways?
As in, he will bring. So when he brings to bear his governing philosophy to bear in Nigeria. Let me give you a very good example. Remember I told you that I donated money to Obi. Millions of people are donating money to Obi. And for me, I'm thinking about, it's the first time that Nigerians don't have faith in anything. Nigerians don't trust anything. But people are just sending money to Obi. What that does, Obi has sold himself as a man you can trust. I mean, I'm telling you, people are donating. I mean, I have a friend in Lekki, his office. He gave half of his office out. They're printing hats. He's paying for it. The Yoruba guy, since people in Nigeria, he's always a Yoruba Igbo. He's a Yoruba person.
Oh, wow.
Of course. I mean, if you follow the movement, it's crazy. Here in London, his rally was paid for by a man that just started up. He's an Edo man, Isako man. I went for that rally in Leicester Square, in Trafalgar Square, paid for by the people. I mean, it's a phenomenon. I'm telling you, it's a phenomenon. And because of the stance he's taking, people don't even expect. So when you meet him, or you don't even expect anything. I can guarantee anybody that meets Ashwaju, no matter how much they go, Ashwaju, we love you. They're expecting something. Obi.
Okay.
Because of his demeanor. So what he's doing is he's going to change the political culture. Remember, the Nigerian political culture has ruined our society. If you're really a keen watcher, remember, leadership comes from the top. That's why in the corporate world, they call it tone from the top. I'm sure you heard that, tone from the top. Because everything rises and falls from the top. If you notice carefully, the Nigerian recklessness has always started from the top. Remember when, because remember when, you know, now in Nigeria, the obsession is jeeps, jeep, jeep, jeep. Yeah?
Yes.
We learned that bad behavior from the ruling class. Then cheating in elections, cheating and rigging elections, cheating and shifting all the rules. We learned it from the ruling elite. That's why even NBA, they have two factions. NLC, two factions. Nigerian Medical Association, all the associations that in the past they were quite together. Now there are factions in everything.
What you have said so far, you have painted how it will look like within Nigeria, but what does it mean for the entire African settings and the global diaspora?
It's gonna, you know, the same way military men came and started the military culture in Africa. Remember?
Yes.
Yes. It's the same way good governance will come and be like a tidal wave.
Why is it Nigeria? Does Nigeria have the power over the rest of the African country to influence them that much?
Well, yes. I mean, as a large economy, I mean, Nigeria is a poor country, but it's a large economy. And if Nigeria can use soft power to, we already influence the African continent with our culture, with our music, with our film. We already influence African culture. So imagine if Nigeria was a beacon of good governance. Of course, it would cascade around the continent. The same way our music cascades all around the world. It's the same thing. And Obi can bring that to bear. And Obi would demystify leadership because he did it in Anambra State. In Anambra State, you can walk into government house.
Casually like that.
Yes, you can just walk in. Remember that when Obi left, he didn't have sirens. Remember, the only reason why you need siren is because you have too many issues. Obi only had 2 cars. He didn't believe in having too many. And people think this Obi is just Obi. That's Obi's life. That's his nature. It's a bit like me now. I have the way I live. Whether I become president or not, the way I live will not change. If that's really the way you live. For some people, it's not the way they live. It's the way they are made to live. But Obi is inherently a simple man who doesn't understand why there's too much fuss. So Obi would change the direction of Nigerian politics, even though he's already done it now. By changing the discourse. The discourse has changed and giving people hope. And people say, people in the South don't vote. But they never analyze why. Don't vote.
It's going to change this time. It will change.
Yeah, but do you know why they have this dichotomy? Nigeria is the only country in the world where normally if you map the pattern of voting, the richer the demography, the more they vote. Poor people don't vote anywhere in the world.
Yeah, that is true. Yes, that is true.
In the UK, in France, look at your map, you see. Nigeria is the only country where the poorer you are, the more they vote. So people don't vote in Owerri, people don't vote in Port Harcourt. But if you go to Sokoto, in Sokoto, where the data told us there's 97% poverty in Sokoto, millions of people come to vote. So these are all contradictions. I don't believe those numbers myself.
Okay.
I never believed it. They say, people don't vote. The reason why people don't vote in the South and in the East is because, first of all, because they don't think the vote will count. So they don't bother. It's not like they don't have the numbers to vote, but they don't care. But in the North, another thing is the reason why it's easier to bring more people in the North is it's cheaper to pay people to come out in the North because of the level of poverty. So if you go to a town in Sokoto, it's cheaper for you to bring out 100 people than if you go to Oshogbo, for example. So if you just the naira for naira, it's easier. But how can you have people in a war zone voting? It doesn't even make sense. Yobe has 7 million votes. This one has 7 million votes. So Nigeria is a country of contradiction and lies.
I've gotten your opinion so far. We try to understand. You have demystified the IPOB perception about IPOB, Biafra, and Igbo presidency, and we have discussed with Obi, with Atiku Abubakar. Now I get your understanding of the entire system. We just want a country that function for everyone to thrive. And believe you me, I didn't have any solid stand before now, but listening to you further solidify my conviction about what Peter Obi represents, because I know that people will be very, very happy if he wins. Very, very, very happy. He's going to ignite a new hope for Nigeria. Why? Because Peter Obi is a um, I cannot say an outlier. He challenges the status quo. He
Yes.
changed the system, which is he carried this fight on himself. He's the contrary of the norm in Nigeria.
Yes.
He's not using religion to mobilize people. He's not using tribalism, all that. There's this organic followership, and I can tell you, he's doing good in the middle belt. He's doing
Yes.
good.
Yes.
But before we go, I know there are things you wanted to say. Some of the things you like to touch about IPOB, maybe I take some of the things you skip, or maybe I caught you in the process of speaking. If you'd like to share your final opinion before we end the conversation.
You mean generally?
Yes, generally, just touch everything.
I mean, I hope Nigerians will have the opportunity, will vote for someone like Peter Obi. So that Peter Obi will be able to operationalize his ideas for a greater Nigeria. And all those hidden gems. And that's why if you listen to his speeches, the North is very central to his plan. The North. I'm not talking about Benue. I'm talking about the core North. It's very central to Obi's plan to energize the new economy of Nigeria. Because the North is the treasure trove of Nigeria. The only problem, and you see, so Obi, I'm sure Obi has sleepless nights. He can't wait to do what he wants to do. Obi has been writing about this for years. I don't know if you've been following Obi. He's been writing about this in op-eds. He's been doing interviews for years about this same topic. He hasn't changed for years. Almost 10 years he's been talking about this. So Obi is eager to do something for Nigeria. Obi will change the North. Remember, the North is so rich, but the North, in fact, Nigeria is so rich, but the North has bad governors and bad leadership, just like the South. I'm not saying the South has better, good leadership. They're all bad. The only unfortunate thing is that for the North, the core North, is that opportunity meets more in the North, in spite of the states. Yes, because the Nollywood phenomenon was not the states. The music was not the states. The IT revolution is not the states. And I was telling a very good friend of mine from the core North, I said to him, the core North has missed all the little successes Nigeria has had. They missed all of them. When the music revolution came, they were never there. First of all, when the internet came, they're not there. When the music came, they're not there. The movie came, they're not there. Now IT has come, they're not there. They've missed out in all the revolution, all the things that people know about Nigeria for. You won't hear anybody from Jigawa leading it. No. The North has missed out in all these things because not only that their leaders are as bad as ours, but for some reason the opportunity doesn't just meet there. Because remember, even people if you go to Anambra State now, Anambra State is one of the least poor states in Nigeria. And I don't know if you saw the data. It's always been consistent.
Yeah.
But it's not. But we have the same bad governors that steal. But for some reason, they find a way to meet that opportunity. So when Obi wins, the core North, that people say they might not vote, it's going to open because the North is so rich and so beautiful. I've been everywhere in the North. There's only Sokoto I've not been to. I've driven around the North with my friend Suleiman Kwande. I drove around the North. Only Sokoto I didn't go to. And you could see, and it's not just that, it's also beautiful. Some valleys you see like this, you'll be shocked. I'm not talking about Jos and Benue. These are nice. I don't even know if you call those places North, but I'm talking about the core North.
Yeah. Of course, I understand what you mean by that.
Very beautiful. And it's funny in the North. That's why sometimes I even worry about. I worry about these numbers that they say in the North. You can go to the North, you don't see. You you can drive for 1 hour, you don't see anybody, just farmlands.
I have the same worry.
So I don't believe those numbers. But now technology is helping us. I'll tell you a secret. If you open Google Map shows human settlement. Go to the North, you will see all those numbers that they lie to us about. And of course, having a lot of numbers does not even, I don't see how it's a big thing. The only reason why it's a big thing in Nigeria is the basis of sharing wealth. So people buy the numbers, because really, why do you want to have a lot number and poor? But they lie because they need to share the money. Meanwhile,
Okay.
Obi has told them that if you cultivate Kaduna, if you cultivate Jigawa, you get more money than the money you get from the fact. Because the Nigerian government, our budget is 8 or 9% of GDP. So all this government, all the money they're corrupting, that they're stealing from, is only 9% of GDP. Our GDP is $400 billion. It's only 9%, 8 or 9% that is spent by the government. So as a percentage of GDP, our budget is only 89%. So what does that tell you? What that tells you is if the Nigerian government does not spend money in the whole year, Nigeria will still fall.
Well, okay, we have come to the end of our conversation. Hopefully, we'll come back again. I don't know when. You stay in contact. You
Yes.
don't run away. I'm happy and great to know you. We have few conversations. I discovered that we share a lot of similar philosophy.
Yes.
So hopefully we'll come back here after the election, or maybe some other time if there's any need for it. I will invite you again, or you can write me, and then
of course
we'll organize it again. Like I told you, these things are very, very important. That will leave them on record for posterity, and people will find out. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your time.
No worries.
I'm going to end the conversation now. And people that are watching us, who are watching the future, just leave your comments, leave your opinion, and let us know what you think. Salute.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.